Welcome to Backyard Family Fun, the podcast from Pride Pools, Spas, and Leisure Products. In Claxton and Savannah, Georgia, celebrating 50 years serving our community, this family-owned business has spent decades helping create memories that last a lifetime. Whether you're a pool owner, a spa lover, or just looking to turn your outdoor space into a true retreat, we've got you covered right here on the Backyard Family Fun podcast. And as a crazy awesome deal for our Backyard Family Fun podcast fans, you get 10% off anything inside either location in Claxton and Savannah, excluding pools, hot tubs, or saunas when you mention the podcast. That's all you have to do. Go and visit the Claxton or Savannah Pride Pools, mention the podcast, and get 10% off. Now that's a reason to celebrate. Welcome back to Backyard Family Fun, brought to you by Pride Pools, Spas, and Leisure Products. And so excited to be sitting down with Marshall Smith. I guess I could say we're about to take a dip together in an above-ground pool.
There you go.
We're getting really excited about this because, you know, I'm excited to have just a full-on conversation about above-ground pools. Of course, at Pride Pools, you can come in and see all kinds of in-ground, you know, and see what it looks like, what it could look like, the shapes and sizes. And I'm excited to talk about the evolution of above ground pools because, Marshall, they have come a long ways.
They have, Dee. I think and I'm going to start off by saying that when we first started in business in 1975, above ground pools were not part of the lineup. I mean, we didn't evolve into above ground pools until I think early 80s, like 80, 81. And so, but from that point on, it's been game on from that point on, right? Mm-hmm. So, and we've been able to see what above ground pools have evolved from where we were in the 70s, in the early 80s, from being a certain height of like 48 inches, and maybe you had a couple different sizes that were round, and you rarely had anything oval, to where we are today, where it is now. We've got 56-inch walls. We've got 21 by 41 oval pools that are huge. And so, to see the evolution from where we were then to where we are now, above ground pools have come a long way for sure.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about the first above ground pool, the first pool experience I had as a kid. We had an above ground in the backyard. And I mean, it was cool to be able to have a pool in the backyard when I didn't think we had the space for it. And I certainly didn't think our family had something to be able to purchase one of those in-ground pools that, maybe another neighbor had in another neighborhood. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm not sure we could, but we had the above ground pool, and it was the coolest thing. And I remember thinking there wasn't a lot to it at that time. Like it seemed a little flimsy every now and then, and this was way back. So, right. They've really come a long ways from that picture in my mind.
Well, they have. And as we were speaking to earlier, the evolution of the above ground pool has kind of, we tried to stay on top of what that looks like. And back to what you're saying, I mean, a pool is cool, right? I mean, whether it's in ground or above ground. Mm-hmm. And so you're, as a kid growing up, or a young adult or whatever, with small children and having enough space to put in either an above ground or an in-ground pool, I think it just says a lot. I think because even back then and then where we are today, people understand the value of family, right? They understand that opportunity to come together as a family and enjoy splashing around or whatever, or just completely lounging around in that space. And so, I mean, I think people, if they've got the space, I think we've got a product that we can fill it with, whether it be an above ground pool or an in-ground pool, because above ground pools have come so far over the years, from a design point of view, feature point of view. It's really enticing to consumers.
Yeah, no doubt. And, we're going to talk a little bit about sort of some of the differences. And I'm thinking about like the materials that are used now versus what was used 50 years ago, and that sort
Sure.
of thing. And I'm thinking about now you've got different lighting, you've got, steps, you've got these hybrid, part of it in the ground, part
That's
of it
right.
above the ground.
That's
I
right.
mean, it just blows my
It
mind.
is. And I think it lends to the materials that are being used in the manufacturing process, right? So it gives us the opportunity to say, if you want an above ground pool, but you're wanting to put a nice deck around it and create a certain space, whether it be creating an illusion of an in-ground pool or whatever the case may be, the pools today give you that opportunity. You can, whether it be oval, whether it be round, we can either take the pool itself down about 2 feet or 3 feet into the ground and create a space that maybe whether it's more appealing or not, or just because it's a convenience factor from an entry perspective. Yeah, I mean there's the design of the product using an all resin product now that helps sustain the wall system is one of the big things that have been improved on over the years to give it that sustainability if you decide to put it in the ground. So can't fully put it in the ground because then it's an in-ground pool, right?
Right.
But it's an above ground pool that we can put in the ground to some degree
Okay.
and create that space with some decking that people find appealing.
Yeah. And I know that there's so many choices now. So it's, every choice is a little different. But could you walk through a little bit of the process of like a typical installation of an above ground pool?
Sure. Again, it's all about space. If you've got the space, what we encourage today, just we talk about technology a lot too, when we talk about things on our podcast. So we talk about the ability for the consumer to take a picture of their space and on their phone, on their handheld computer, right? And bring it to the store. Let us take a look at it. Let's take a look at the space that you're working with. When it comes to above ground pools, topography is important, meaning that you want a relatively flat space to work with. If you don't, then no problem. We can work around that. It's just knowing what we're working with in advance
That
helps
was going to
us.
be my question. If it's not flat,
Yeah.
can you help me get it flat, or
Absolutely.
what are we doing?
That's right. So we dig into Mother Earth to create a space that's flat below. So instead of trying to build up on the low side, we actually cut into the high side to create the space to keep it level. So yes, that is a non-factor, but it is a factor in understanding what we're working with. But it's something that we can create no matter what. So
Right.
whether it be the pool is going to be considered an above ground, or if we're going to put it in the ground some, that's the topography we can work around. But yeah, to understand that process is, someone comes in and they're trying to decide on what they want to use or put in their backyard and what kind of space they want to create. We have specialists in house that talk them through it. We have obviously a ton of displays on display in our Claxon location, so consumers can see those. And I think being able to touch it, feel it, smell it helps a lot when it comes time to make a decision on maybe which model is best for them. So that's part of the process. And then, obviously just us bringing the pool to them. And I'll say this from that perspective, you're going to be swimming quicker. So, doing an above ground pool is typically a 1 to 2, maybe a 3-day process. And so, if you can't decide on what you want to do and you think, well, if I can get a pool in my backyard much quicker because I'm going to go with an above ground, then that's an option. And so if that's appealing to someone, then we encourage you to take a look at the above ground option, and then we can help you kind of figure out what's going to look or work best in that space.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Man, when you were saying 1 to 2 to 3, I was like, is that weeks? Or you're like, no, days?
Yep.
I'm like, whoa,
Yep.
okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
That makes sense.
because we talk about the in-ground process can take a little bit
That's
longer.
right. That makes sense.
Because there's so much other factors that play a role in that. Whereas an above ground, especially if we're keeping it, an above ground pool, it's going to be pretty quick. So yeah, you're swimming quicker.
Yeah. So if you're in a hurry,
That's
just
right.
saying.
If you're in a hurry, we can hopefully oblige.
It can happen. Talk to me a little bit about the maintenance difference. When you're thinking about, okay, above ground pool, this is what we want as a family. This is where we're going. What does that maintenance look like?
Okay. It's an excellent question. And I would tell anybody that I talk to about that, it's all about the volume of water.
Mm.
Depending, it doesn't matter if it's an above ground pool or an in-ground pool or a spa, whatever the case is, it's all about the volume of water. That dictates, when I say dictates, what it does is when it comes to water chemistry, because any pool, spa, whether it be in-ground or above ground, has to have some form of chemistry that comes with it, because it's a body of water, right? We want to keep it healthy.
Right.
And so that being said, again, to answer that question, the initial question about what's the difference, well, it's about the volume of water. And so an above ground pool typically is going to have a smaller volume of water.
Right.
Okay. So smaller volume of water, less maintenance, less upkeep. Typically, when it comes time for cleaning, just the overall complete, I guess, from energy consumption to maintenance of the pool, it's going to be less because you're dealing with a smaller body of water.
Yeah. That makes sense.
That's one of the biggest factors. Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of the same, you're talking about we've got to balance the water no matter the volume.
That's right. That's right.
So, a lot of the same products that you might be, thinking about, you could be using a lot of the same accessories and products and cleaning tools and all the same sort of thing.
Absolutely. That is, none of that's really any different because all those products apply to any body of water. So whether it be in ground or above ground. So the good news is that with the professionals we have on staff that are really good at what they do with water chemistry and or maintenance for the pool, we show you what tools work best no matter what the application is. So you're going to get the education that you need to keep that body of water healthy at all times. Again, whether it be in ground or above ground, we've got the tools to help you.
And I'm thinking too about, once we have decided, okay, above ground pool is for us, just to sort of help folks that, maybe getting in that process. Are there any like common first time mishaps for, folks that are first time owners of a above ground pool that maybe we could say, here's something to watch out for?
Yeah, sure. Well, you know what? That's a question that I don't contemplate too much on. I don't know if there is that first misstep would be they've listened to their neighbor too much and they think they got it all figured out.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know.
It's easy to do.
And listen, nothing against the next door neighbor
Right.
who has maybe learned everything they need to learn, whether through the internet or whatever, and maybe that works for them. However, what I will tell you is this: every backyard is different. It's like they have their own DNA, and here's why. Because typically landscape dictates a lot of what would happen with the chemistry of that water. You've got a customer that's next door, or I should say a friend next door who has an in-ground or above-ground pool who has a ton of pine trees, maybe close by. And you're in maybe one house or two houses over, and you have oak trees in your backyard. The dynamic of that water is going to be different. No doubt.
Right.
It will be. So
that makes sense.
Not to suggest that the mishaps are listening to the to the neighbor and about how to take care of their swimming pool. I would suggest that that's where people have a misconception about one size fits all. And it's not that way. And so that's the reason why we keep ourselves educated about all the nuances of pool ownership or spa ownership so that we can give the best advice about what works best for that consumer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because what's right for their water is probably because of their yard, their environment, is not necessarily going to be right for
and
them.
volume of water,
That's
because they may be dealing with two different volumes of
that's
water
true,
as well. So it all boils down to, I wouldn't say those are nuances. Those are big deals, but those are big features that drive either the water chemistry side of it or just the maintenance side of it. So yeah, I would think from a misstep that maybe that's what happens, that some consumers think that one size fits all, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense. You did mention a couple of these features, but I'm just curious what kind of custom features people can add to above ground pools. You did mention like a deck, and that, which I've seen at Claxton, is so cool.
Yeah, I think if you can create a space that makes it more inviting, whether we subsink the pool, whatever, or even if the pool's not sunken, you still put a deck around it. Anything to enhance the space, to make it more inviting, easier access, lounging spaces, grilling spaces, around that pool is important. But as far as features for the pool itself, absolutely, there's lighting for above ground pools. There's water features for above ground pools that are available. Automatic pool cleaning systems that are available that makes life simpler as well for
Yeah.
in ground and above ground. So, I think automatic pool cleaners are a must. If not to get off onto that sidebar, but I would tell you in ground pool cleaners, or excuse me, automatic pool cleaners, whether it's above ground or in ground pools, are, I think, essential because it does several things. And we can get off into talking about the different types of cleaners that are out there. But I think it's just one of those essential pieces that you have to have that makes pool ownership easier
Mm-hmm.
and you just enjoy your pool, and it makes less maintenance for
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, you talk about features. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can get pretty creative with your above ground pool that are real appealing to consumers.
I mean, I think about, like I said, that above ground that I had when I was a kid. And I think about if we would have had a automatic pool cleaner, if we would have, been able to maybe understand the maintenance a little bit better and things like
Sure.
that, the wear and tear is not as much.
That's
And,
right.
you just think about the longevity of something if you're able to have these things during the maintenance process and the cleaning process. That really does change that.
It does. And I think if consumers understood that pool ownership is not difficult,
Right.
it's easy, it is an investment. And we use that term, that's an important piece to understand. I mean, if you're going to invest in your backyard, it is an investment. And so anything worth having requires a little bit of attention, whether
Absolutely.
it be from a cost perspective or physical, presence, perspective, it is a requirement. And so what we want to do is make it as simple as possible so
Mhm.
that consumers realize pool ownership is really easy and so enjoyable because look what it just did in my backyard. It just made it just look so much better.
Right.
And so now it's not as expensive as you might think it would be because you're doing all the little things that we teach you to take care of that space. And so, yeah, I think, that's what's encouraging to me being in this business and being able to help create those spaces, but then also make them very efficient. And so, yeah, I think that being able to, you know, let people understand that, maybe things of old or what they may have heard in the past about
Mhm.
pool ownership, we can put that to bed pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And
Yeah.
it really does. It gives you more time when you think about it to do the other things that you want to do.
Sure.
Plan the parties, have the parties,
That's right. That's
have
right.
more people over.
Yeah. The icing on the cake
That's
part,
right.
right? Yeah.
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 It gives
Mhm.
you all that,
Yeah.
which is a nice exchange for your investment.
It is.
It
And
really
yeah,
is. All right. So before you go, I wanted to ask you about any advice that you might give to someone that's thinking and maybe, they're on the fence about like above ground pool. I feel like I might be overwhelmed by the options. Can you talk a little bit about the options just in general when they walk into
Sure.
Pride pools and also maybe like a range for the cost
Sure.
because that's, a lot of people
That's
thinking
right.
about, hey, I got a certain amount to budget for this sort of thing.
That's right. And use the right word. Budget dictates a lot and will determine, I think, where we end up landing in what works best for most folks. And I think knowing that the space itself could sometimes dictate that. I mean, if they've got a small amount of space or they've got a larger amount of space and they want to go bigger, that'll dictate as well. So ultimately, sure, as we mentioned just a minute ago, investing in a swimming pool is an investment, but it's also let's invest wisely in what's going to work best for us. So yeah, we step 1 to step 5, whatever steps it was required, we walk them through that from the financing options that are available. Different opportunities from layaway as well.
Hmm.
That we can offer up to anyone who says, yeah, we want to create backyard family fun at my house. What's it going to cost me? Or, if you do have a budget, sure, that'll dictate everything, obviously,
Right.
and help us find the right one for you. But yeah, we understand that creating spaces in their backyard is important, whether you're doing it above ground or in ground. We see both as important as the other. And so we work with folks as their, I use the word budget, their ideas, their vision, and we try to come up with something that works for all parties involved so that ultimately they're having backyard family fun. And that's what our goal is. So,
Yeah. And it's about investing in that, which I
that's
love,
right.
making it work from, whatever the customer, I come into as a customer a certain way. A lot of times I come in with my budget first. This is my budget. Tell me what I can do. And then some
right.
people come in with the vision first.
That's
and
right.
this is what I'm picturing. Tell me what I can do. And so I love being able to see
That's right.
those, mesh together.
And we understand whatever the thought process is, right? So we want to not assume anything.
That's right.
That's right. So we want to make sure that we're listening very well, and so that we are providing the product knowledge and the information that's going to give them the best results. And so, again, we don't take anything lightly, because it is an investment in their backyard, and we want to make sure that we help them make the best decision, whether it's in ground or above ground, or if it's, I wouldn't put a dollar value on it, but I mean, just for, from 5,000 to 100,000, whatever the case may be, we can accommodate any of that. And we're open eyes and open ears to all that come to see us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Marshall, as always, thank you for sitting down and chatting, and for this one, keeping it above ground with me. I appreciate that.
That's right. Got to keep it above board, right? Yeah. We're there.
And I want to remind everybody, if you want to see a lot of these above ground pools we're talking about, the Claxton location, even though we're recording in the Savannah location today, but the Claxton location, man, you really get to see everything
You do.
out, in the open in Claxton.
That's right. Because if you're leaning towards an above ground pool, I think anything that you may be considering, we've got it on display.
Yeah.
And that way it'll give you the best opportunity to make the right decision for you and your family.
Yeah. And it's, it puts it to scale for you right there. You can.
That's a great point, Dee. I think a lot of people, when they try to visualize something, maybe can't. And then when you can actually physically see it and touch it and see it on display, I think says it all. I mean, it allows people to say, oh, it's that size. Oh, well, here's the next size up right here. And it says, oh, well, we can do that. Our space will accommodate that. And I'd much rather have that, whatever the case may be. So, the visual displays are really big for consumer decisions.
Yeah, and it's a big deal, and it makes all the difference for sure. Marshall, thank you so much. Until next time.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Let the celebrations continue. The team at Pride Pools is excited to give you a huge anniversary special. Actually, 3 of them. To celebrate 50 years all year long, you can get up to $10,000 in savings on 3 anniversary fiberglass pools. There are 3 sizes to choose from: the backyard size, the family size, and the fun size. How cool is that? So stop by the Claxton or Savannah locations of Pride Pools, or go to pridepools.com for more information. Thanks for listening. Come by and meet your local pool and spa experts in Claxton on Highway 280 West, or in Savannah on Gateway Boulevard South, or go to pridepools.com. If you love backyard family fun as much as we do, be sure to give us a rating and review, and subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you have a question or topic you'd love for us to cover, drop us an email, info@pridepools.com, or tap the links for Facebook or Instagram in the show notes of this episode. We'd love to hear from you. Now let's go make a splash and have some backyard family fun.
Pride Pools, Spas and Leisure.